Very excited to have you here. It is Whitney Cummings behind the table. Today is Thursday, April 2nd. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're at the close to the end. You're still got the weekend view to go, but we're close to the end of your week on The View. Thank you so much. I think you've done a great job. You were one of the first people I thought of to call.
So nice. Especially given you've worked with me before.
I have. So
you wanted.
I did. Well,
and you still wanted to.
I first met you when I worked at David Letterman. You were a guest, and you. I mean, for people who don't know the arc of your career, it's kind of meteoric and incredible. I mean, you were the brains behind Two Broke Girls, which is just a massive hit. You had
with
your
the
own,
great Michael Patrick King.
Yes. You had your own sitcom with your name in the title. I mean,
which, by the way,
yeah.
May I say, I can say this now, was so funny.
It was very funny.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I was 27 years old. It was on NBC, which at the time was The Office and Community, which I think now people are so savvy about.
I love Community.
But those were single camera shows that I loved. But it really was a multicam that I was doing, a comedian multicam. I grew up watching Roseanne, Cosby Show, rest in peace. The show is still great. Ellen's sitcom, actually loved. These live studio audience shows. Martin, one of the greatest sitcoms of all time. It should have been on CBS with like the 2.5 Men's and the Big Bang Theory. It was just kind of in the wrong place. So all the single camera kind of like alt people sort of attacked it. But I get more people coming up to me about that show now that is on Roku or whatever, wherever it is.
I haven't seen
that check, but
Roku's a good place to be because people watch that all the time. I watch Roku.
Because you know what it was? We didn't talk about politics. We didn't lecture anyone how to vote. It was just about relationship dynamics, something very simple and like why is your ex texting you 3 years later? Should you have coffee with your ex? It was just like stuff that transcends every language, every country, problems everybody has.
Well, that brings me kind of to now because how has comedy changed? How has it changed for you? How has it changed for everybody? And I mean, these days it's hard to do something that isn't about all those things you just mentioned.
Sure. I think comedy's always been hard. I guess I refuse to believe that I'm like special in any way, and I refuse to try to just get any pity, just that I think that comedy's always been hard. You used to have to get famous without the internet. Like what? How? You just have to try to, if Johnny Carson didn't like you, you weren't going to make it. Now,
Absolutely.
There's so many ways. If you weren't TV clean, you weren't going to get on Johnny Carson. Or if you were great and you had one bad set and it was Johnny Carson,
dead
your
forever.
life was over.
That was it. Yeah.
So as annoyed as sometimes I even get that, like, oh my God, these people get famous on TikTok and Instagram. And I'm, of course, like annoyed because that would mean I would have to remember my password and, get on all these platforms. But thank God, I think this is the best time ever to be in comedy because there's someone for everyone.
What was your big break? How did you
Having a bad childhood.
Yeah.
My dad ignoring me was truly the best thing that ever could have happened to me.
Literally every comic seems to have that exact same thing.
Don't leave your house at 9 p.m. every night to go make drunk strangers laugh because your dad didn't feel like a drunk stranger you were trying to make laugh every day while he preferred to watch Rodney Dangerfield. I watched my dad. The only person that ever got his attention was Rodney Dangerfield. And I would walk in and I would see Rodney Dangerfield on the TV and I would see him laughing and I was just like, I got to get in that box and I got to do whatever that guy's doing.
Did it work?
He has a figure. Not well. No, I mean,
no respect.
It's no respect. But now no one gets more respect. Rodney Dangerfield has the biggest GIF. The little moving things in the iPhone that you send, like his eyes going. Bigger than Kim Kardashian, biggest globally.
There you go. As
is
you
Rodney
should.
Dangerfield.
As you should.
I'm a Rodney Dangerfield dork. But I did start as a writer. I started writing for other comics.
Yes.
And because it was very easy for me to write for other comedians, it wasn't as easy for me to write for myself when I was 22, 23, because I didn't know who I was.
So you could find someone else's voice, but not yours.
100%. Well, because people who were clearly defined and knew who they were because they were on the road and they knew what their thing is. Because back then you had to kind of be, I'm this guy. I'm Get Her Done. I'm Larry the I'm the cable guy.
Larry the cable guy.
I mean, it's like I don't know his name, but his name's Dan Whitney, but he's the cable guy. So everyone sort of had their bucket, for lack of a better word. Now is I was this person, but now I'm growing and I'm this person now. Like I was sort of the single mess for a long time. Now I'm the single mom mess. Now I'm, a mom and I'm not just committing to one thing because you used to have to go like, what's my sitcom?
Right.
To get a deal, Am I the married guy who's like wife beats up on me, Kevin James? That's our sitcom. Now it's like people can be multidimensional. I think comedians now, it's kind of interesting because, yes, are people hard on us? Fine. I think that all this negativity has always existed. We just never were able to read it. People would leave a comedy club and go, I hated him. I hated her. I didn't like this joke. That was offensive. We just didn't read it. It wasn't in our
And do you read it now?
inbox. I kind of do, because I think for every misspelled, nasty comment, there's sometimes a good feedback.
So I read everything about the show, partly because it's my job as the executive producer to just kind of know the general vibe of what's out there. And I often go to bed doom scrolling, and I often wish I hadn't. But at the same time, I think you're 100% right. I think there are insights to be taken even from the trolls, even from the bots.
I started 100%. I started with you. But by the way, thank you, trolls and bots, because negative back and forth is what gets me in the algorithm.
There we go.
So thank you. I think, we kind of owe all of our haters, a fruit basket at this point. And then it makes other people like you more, that people hate you. I mean, it's just such an, odd new way to live under the delusion that before Instagram comics, everyone just loved me. You know what I mean? That's not healthy either. I also, think that it's our job as comics to read the room, and there's no, proverbial, sometimes there's no room because you got to read the room of the comment section. This person is obviously just trolling to troll. This person's just, whatever. This person's making a good point, actually, that I didn't think of. There's a lot of smart people on the internet. This idea that we've decided the internet is like only idiots.
Right. No, I think what the trick is to realize that it's not representative of necessarily everybody. It's a small portion of people. That being said, those people may have something to say that you should look at.
And also, it's like, I gotta be honest, like trolls, like I agree with a lot of you. It's like, I hate you. Like, I kind of hate me too some days. We're not so different, me and you, so it's like you hate someone who hates themselves. That's how comedians become comedians.
But someone like you who's in the public eye, you go on Joe Rogan, you read about it for months. You go on Bill Maher, you read about it for months. Sure. Does that get in your head at all? Or are you able to kind of just do what you intend to do all the time?
I think for me, I just try to go, how does this make me a better comic? Instead of how can I self-flagellate and tear myself apart with it, because you certainly can do that. And I to anyone that criticizes me, I'm like, no one's harder on me than me. Like, not like when I see some of the comments that are like brutal, I'm like, well, that's better than what I just said to myself. So, I think that for me, I just try to go, how can this be constructive criticism?
Right.
And also comics, like we go on stage, if people don't laugh, we change the joke. We take feedback. The audience is our boss, whether we like it or not. And you can't like it in the beginning and then get successful and go like, oh, you guys don't get to decide what I say anymore. Like, how dare you not like me, you know? And I think that we have to just look at the overwhelming love people have for comics more than ever, almost to a point that it's kind of weird. Like there's this new thing where comedians are being held to a higher standard than politicians. And
isn't it interesting? Yeah.
But it means they're like, we like what you do. Don't, Tyra Banks, we're rooting for you. I think they're rooting for us in a way. And there's this, when I started, if someone had said, hey, just so you know, in like 20 years, comedians are going to be looked to as like the moral compass of society, I'd be like, not really what I'm signing up for. But it's a weird time. But I think that, it's just about being self-aware. And thank God we've got podcasts now to be able to sort of, contextualize what we're trying to say, or apologize, or go, this is what I meant to say, or this is where I'm coming from. And the real fans, who want to get it will. The people who go out of their way to intentionally misunderstand what you're saying just because they're addicted to self-righteous indignation.
Well, exactly.
You were never going to get them anyway.
That's always what you have to look out for, is intention and people who are acting in good or bad faith.
But
and
also,
that's really
by the way,
what it is.
people love being pissed off.
They do.
There's people where that's their drug, and it makes their day. And I know what I'm doing when I go, she's a bleh. It makes me feel better.
There you go.
To judge someone else. So I'm like, I signed up to make people's day. If you hating me is what makes your day,
God bless.
I did my job here today. That's not how I thought I would do it. So it's because self-righteous indignation. I think everyone would be sort of like, the word isn't happier, but like things would make more sense once we start looking at that rage as an addiction. That's not a choice. I mean, people
Absolutely.
go online to get their fix instead of
that's
drugs or
why
alcohol.
That's why clickbait works. That's why all this stuff happens.
So it's like, it's not personal. They're just getting I'm their drug dealer for the day.
Well, speaking of what you've been doing and getting clicks, you've been co-hosting The View all week.
Which, by the way, I'm obsessed with you. Who's interviewed you on this show?
Not many people. No, I think most of the time I just I let them do their thing.
I learned so much from you this week.
Oh, that's flattering and shocking.
There's a couple moments where, because the topics come in the night before, like a version of like, okay, here's what we could talk about. I'm obsessed with what makes it and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
My game has been like, I'm going to guess. I'm going to get, I think this is what they're going to do.
How have you done?
I came pretty close today, but you only ended up choosing 2. Because I think you guys do such a good job of picking the right topics, and they all flow together well. And it's such an art.
Well, so for people who don't know, the way this works is all the hosts get the night before a list of maybe 50, 60 topics, and it can be anything from politics and news to pop culture to relationships.
It's the only democracy we have left in America.
That's
we all
right.
get to vote on the topics.
Everyone votes, and because of the nature of the show and the way that everyone at that table is different from the start, it's very rare we have several alignments. So
do you pick it based on going like, this is the most relevant topic today, or this has the most interesting responses from each host, knowing them?
I try to find the bridge in between. I try to find the Venn diagram where it's interesting, it's unexpected what they're going to say, there's some disagreement, and also this is what everybody in America is talking about. I would say that much like you, I like to guess where we're going to land. Robin Hummel, who's in charge of our Hot Topics team, and I speak every morning really early, like around 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, and we just say, well, this is what we're thinking. And I think we're right probably 70% of the time, 65% of the time. And then, a lot of times we'll go back to the hosts and they'll be like, oh, really? That's what you picked? Why? And then sometimes 2 of them will like it, 3 of them won't. And we try to find a balance also where everyone's getting something in there that they can really speak to or bite into.
And I watched that, I watched a couple of those moments happen, and you handle it in such a, I don't know if your wife deserves an edible arrangement for just training you to listen or
breaking me down.
But
yes.
you're such an amazing leader because
gosh.
you wouldn't get emotional, you wouldn't get defensive, you would just hear someone out and go, here's why we did it, moving on. Like it was just very.
Well, you were talking about it before, how this show is really a machine in a lot of ways, and that's
never seen anything like it.
I appreciate that, but that's partly why there's no other way to do this. You have to move on. We're a live show every single day. You have to take the input from people, and you have to listen and weigh it and make a decision and move on to the next thing. And that's just what we have to do, and it never, ever ends.
I mean, on some level, I think this show is getting bigger from what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And, because not only is it able to be clipped up online and you guys get these incendiary, flammable moments, which is so great, but, now that I have a kid and just I'm having done this long enough, I want to be a part of things that, 3 generations can watch. Your teenage daughter, your mom, and your grandma can all watch the same thing. And when I think there's so few things we can all watch anymore. And when I go through TSA, it's on. When I'm in an airport, it's on all the TVs. It's on the break rooms at school. It's on the break room at the pediatrician's office. It just can be on anywhere. And, it's funny because people go, well, it's just women fighting. It's like, that's everyone's Thanksgiving. What are you talking?
Well, it really is. What I think makes a good show is when what we're talking about is a reflection of what people are talking about at home. So last night, the president was on television. A lot of people are talking about that, but they're also talking about a Bravo show some days. And they're talking about the Oscars or the Golden Globes or the Grammys, or they're talking about some crazy piece of news that just happened. And I've found that people tend to, because they care about our hosts and they care about what people want to say, and they also want to understand different versions of opinions to kind of help shape their own in a lot of ways.
It's MMA for women. I love it.
In some ways it is.
I love it.
The other thing, you mentioned that it's getting bigger, and it's funny because, there's all this conversation about linear television not being what it was, and the idea that people aren't watching TV in the same way. And that's true. But our show, younger viewers are watching more this year than last year, and more last year, the year before that. And I think the reason for that is because exactly what you said. We're doing podcasts. We're on YouTube. We've got the streaming show on things.
Also, the pendulum's always going to swing. So it's like people stop watching TV a little bit, these sort of establishment media people, and then they went online and they started getting their news from some guy named Todd who ended up being a pedophile or weirdo with no quality. And wait, hold on. There's a school for journalism, but we can go see people that know how things
So you
work.
think it's coming back? That's reassuring. I hope that's true.
It's the same thing with my point about AI. Is I think that it's going to make things, like art more valuable because you're going to want something to say human made.
I think so.
The way that you want. Where's the organic fruit? So I think that like this onslaught of fakeness is going to make us crave real more and more. Whereas I think this onslaught of fake news that's not vetted at all, that makes you look like an idiot when you repeat it. I think young people are, we didn't find out everything we learned was fake till way later. We learned in school that Columbus discovered America and that there was a mural on my gym wall at high school. It was the Native Americans having a fun dinner with the Pilgrims. They were having a blast. I feel like that's not how it went
Best
down.
of friends.
So then we learn, they're not going to learn it wrong. No. They're not willing to. They want to know right. And in going through this process with y'all, trust me, there were plenty of things that I wanted to say. And they're like, no, we can't vet that because this. And I was like, no, the Ghislaine Maxwell we saw in the interview was a clone. They're like, okay, so here's why we can't say that. And I was like, can I put it in quotes? They're like, no, here's why, So I think that people are sick of, fake information, and they want to come to a place like this.
Yeah, we things get vetted here very carefully. You mentioned that it's still an opinion show, so people have opinions, and you can give your opinion. It's based on
something real,
but it needs to be factually based when you say those things. You mentioned off camera with me just how fast it all moves. Was that something
wild? Never seen anything like it. Well, it's live, so it's already airing, and it's very rare that I've seen in my limited, you doing this so much longer than me, that an establishment show goes, we're going to match the pace of the internet. A lot of things go like, this is what we do, and we're just going to fade into oblivion.
Yeah.
Because, and so the way that I've seen the people here, the producers that I worked with, finger on the pulse in a way that I have not seen on any show, not even with my comedian friends who are just, flatlining X all day long and, YouTube lives with conspiracy theory. She was so on it. So to see an establishment media institution evolve and go, no, we're going to keep up with TikTok. We're going to keep up with all of this. And I don't even know how to happen. Before I get off stage, I've got photos, I've got videos, it's already posted.
Yeah, the team here has been doing it for a long time, but to your point, they have evolved and they are on top of it.
And you put it out. So other, Twitter, X, what do we call it anymore?
X, I guess.
It identifies as X. How do we do this? They already have it up, and they, they're able to, repurpose it. A lot of people are making money off the show. That's not you guys.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah, but it's the best advertising, and I love that.
Are you surprised how much attention everything you say on this show gets? It's really something else. You've gone viral several times this week.
Yeah, look, I think that live TV is what, I'm a stand-up comic.
Right.
So live TV is the only place there's any danger or tension anymore. People are so savvy about things being edited, written, premeditated, faked. Sometimes when I do my podcast, I'll have bullet points on a prompter and they'll be like, she was looking at a prompter. I'm like, yeah, well, what am I supposed to remember? An hour of, I do this every week. And so live, and I did this thing on CNN a couple of years ago on New Year's Eve that was live, and kind of went a little wild because I'm like, I know this is stuff that I'd never be able to say on tape.
I remember reading about that.
Or they would cut it out. So I think there's also an excitement to live. Even stand-ups are doing live. The roast of Tom Brady was live.
Yes.
I think that it was such a big part because you're going, this is really happening.
No, and there's a feeling like even watching it later isn't good enough. You have to, and it's important to the view too. I know that.
Did you just see that?
Yes. So you don't want to see the clip later. You want to see it when it happens.
Not only did Whitney say that, she said it live,
yes.
in front, and it wasn't edited and it wasn't manipulated.
Right.
So I think that adds some danger that a lot of things don't have. So I think it being live is so huge.
You have to really give credit to Barbara Walters and Bill Getty, who created this almost 30 years ago now, which is crazy. But it was always
crazy.
It was live, and it was women of different perspectives, age groups.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big part of the show, the generational part of it.
And I gotta say, I hope I'm allowed to say this, you get a different performance out of people when it's live versus when it's taped.
Yes.
Because there is such a familiarity with the idea of they can always cut this out, or they can fix it later. You can clean up my mess later. I'm gonna be kind of, so doing the live shows where everyone's, especially comics and performers, where you have one take to get this, and then, you go a little more into conversational. They can cut this later if I don't get it right.
So, I'm not a comedian, but I'm a student of comedy. I grew up probably with many of the same influences you have. And
tell me.
Well, like the Dangerfields and Carlin and I mean, Letterman was my idol as a kid. That was the one that really got me through.
Can I tell you my favorite thing Letterman ever did?
Yeah.
You were probably there. Remember when Leno lost the late night, that whole debacle with Conan O'Brien, and Conan took his spot. And Leno and Letterman, I mean, I've read all the late night war stuff. Like, I'm such a dork about it all.
Me too.
So Leno and Letterman are lifelong adversaries for ratings and such. And so when all this is going on, I mean, Letterman couldn't have been. I mean, he was watching Letterman during Leno getting fired from his spot, moving to 10 o'clock, Conan taking over, and then Jimmy Fallon was maybe going to take over, whatever. And he would just like tuning into him like, what's going on over there at NBC? I mean, and he said one day, he goes, because Letterman was just the genius of a clean comedy. I'm not saying it's just a clean, silliness that was so cerebral. And he goes, who's the guy? He's talking about Jimmy Fallon. He's like, who's the guy who's on after Conan? Is he going to take over? What's that guy's name? Lonnie Donegan? Lonnie Donegan.
A reference nobody knows.
And then he goes, what's his name? Denny Clausen?
Yeah.
I'm crying. Like, it is such a weird, just so Letterman.
Yeah, that was
great.
great.
Even if you don't get it, you know it's funny.
Yeah, that was great. I actually, during that time, I produced when Conan came on with Dave to talk about that whole thing. And it was maybe the highlight of my entire career. So my whole interest in working in television came from reading The Late Shift, that book about the late night wars, when I was like a junior in high school. And that like activated me to want to do all this stuff. So it's
cool.
Anyway, so I appreciate having comedians here. It's important. Joy is a big part of and Whoopi being comedians have always been a big part of The View. And it's a hard thing. We had Arsenio Hall here today talking about the late night legends and late night wars.
Crazy.
Remember he was on the cover of TV Guide. I'm going to kick Jay Leno's ass.
Crazy. And look, here's what
and
I'll
now
say.
they're friends.
And here's what I'll say. Like, it's interesting because there's a lot of talk shows, podcasts, these, and no shade. Some of them are great at it, but I think a lot of people forget, like, talk show hosts used to be, there's a reason Theo Von and Rogan and all these like comics are the biggest ones, because believe it or not, it's like kind of hard to talk for 2 hours. It's hard to interview people, so I think there's a generation that is missing out on people, the art of interviewing people and bringing out the best in people.
What I was trying to talk about before when I was saying about my comedic influences coming up and stuff like that and shows that I used to watch, what I loved about Letterman was the feeling like it could go off the rails, and if it did, maybe that was better than the planned show to begin with anyway.
Oh, I mean, the Joaquin Phoenix interview. Like, you couldn't have Joaquin Phoenix like that. What did he say? So, do you always chew gum?
Yeah.
What did he say? Is that what he said?
Well, at the end, he said, I'm sorry you couldn't be here. But that was
That takes 20 years in the Comedy Store belly room of dealing with like crowd work and putting out fires,
Yes.
So, but he makes it look easy. So it's like, I could do that. It's like, not,
And that show was live to tape. So even though it wasn't live, he would not very rarely make an edit. He would start the show on time. If the guest was late, it didn't matter. He would do that show in a rigorous way, like it was live every day. And I think that's part of it too. And this show, often things go off the rails and you just kind of roll with it. And I think that's also maybe okay.
Can I do this? Since here's a couple things I wish I had done earlier in the week, because I'm going to say this, and I'd say it on my podcast. I think I have, which is, before I went on Letterman for the first time, I was told, not by a Letterman employee, by a publicist, wear perfume. Wear a nice perfume.
I had heard that sort of thing before.
And I got a perfume called Child. It's my favorite. It smells like guys, you guys, I love you, but you're very simple.
Sure.
It's vanilla, just strawberry,
nothing complex. Yeah.
Cinnabon, smell like a Cinnabon. Just put icing on yourself. They don't want like there's these new perfumes that are like leather smoke. Like they're like no. And it smells like Tropicana tanning oil.
Yeah.
Which was probably the first time you guys were like women, Yeah. And so it's probably very nostalgic. I wore it, and he said, that smells, I think it helped. Like,
it doesn't hurt.
He loves a perfume. He said, he was like, what is it? And I sent it to him afterwards as like a gift. So little things like that, I think, go a long way. For each of your hosts, like, what would be the thing that I could have done if I was coming on next week to be like, how do I get in good with Joy? How do I get in good with Whoopi?
That's really interesting. Okay, so I mean, I have my own versions of it. So
Joy, talk about World War II.
World War II, any interest in documentaries about Nazis. She's very interested in that. That's always a good way to go. And really with Joy, especially for another comedian, you've done a good job of this, don't step on her jokes.
No.
If she puts the runway out there and if she's coming in, don't step on it.
Oh, God, that's
and she'll stop the show and say, you just stepped on my joke.
In comedy, that's a crime. Yeah,
Of course. And then Whoopi, it's do not wear perfume because she's very sensitive to smells. That's a big thing. That's a big thing for her.
I'm a pig.
For me, I just talk about Star Trek with her. That's been my
that's good. That's good.
On Star Trek. Let's see.
And shoes, by the way. Whoopi.
Shoes, yes.
Last time I was here, I still have them. They are on a shrine in my closet. I went into her room. She had this insane shoe closet and had these shoes. I don't even have the vocabulary to describe them. They were like an iridescent platform that looked like squiggles that does not look like you could walk in them at all. Like a Jetsons and shoe, and she's like, try those on, and she gave them to me.
Oh, look at that. See, she's very generous, Whoopi Goldberg.
They are going for so much on eBay you wouldn't believe.
There we go. That's a nice move. Sunny Hostin, it's all about the jewelry and the fashion with I mean, tell you, if you could ideologically not agree with Sunny Hostin on a single thing.
Yep.
Savannah Chrisley was here, had some jewelry. Sunny's her best friend now. They're texting each other.
My jewelry is my dog from Etsy.
Well, dogs are a good way to get into, actually. They all love a dog.
Gosh, I'm wearing a bolo tie from, the thrift store. I played that all wrong.
Anna Navarro, let's see. Any interest in her dog, Cha-Cha? Very important.
I should have come in with that.
Yeah. And also, if you happen to be friends with Eva Longoria or Gloria Estefan.
Loves them.
Loves them. They get mentioned several times on Podcast and Day.
Okay. And Bad Bunny.
Oh, Bad Bunny. Yes. Excellent. Good call.
Bad Bunny.
Good call. And Sarah Haynes, motherhood. Always good to go.
Yeah, she's so sweet.
Yeah, talking about how pregnancy was awful. She enjoys that too. She actually had serious postpartum that she talks about a lot.
I went through it too.
Yeah, and that's something.
And I plan on blaming my behavior on it for the next 30 years.
Yeah, there you go.
As you should. It's been. My kid is 2.5. I'm like, it's mom brain. Everyone's like, I think you passed the window.
Your son's adorable, by the way.
Thank you so much. Let me ask you. So you're about to have a week off. What are you gonna do?
I'm gonna travel with my family. I'm gonna go to Europe.
What?
Yes. Believe it or not, I've got daughters, and they're at an age where they actually appreciate it, and it's amazing.
How old are they?
14 and 11.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And they're musical theater obsessed.
Stop.
And
what's their favorite?
Oh my gosh, it changes by the day. Right now, it's
Have they
Hades
seen Rent?
Oh yeah, they've seen Rent.
Okay.
Yeah, their mother's gotten them.
Rent
everything.
is a very big part of why I think I got into comedy.
Really?
Because Rent was funny, and it was like, oh, this is about AIDS.
Yeah.
Like we can sing and dance and be funny about a horrific topic. Like that's what I do. I always get sent to the principal's office. Like this is a job.
Absolutely.
Where you can talk about something serious, but like coded in something else and,
Yeah.
sneak in. I just loved it.
Can you sing?
No. In a way that's actually shocking.
Oh wow!
In a way, when I have tried in the past, I was in a movie with Kevin Hart and Josh Gad, and I was actually trying to sing well, and it sounds like I'm pretending to be bad. It's hard to like convince people.
I appreciate that you have the self-awareness of it though, because I was talking to Sarah Haynes here on the podcast yesterday, and she thinks she can sing and she can't.
Oh
it's rough.
Well, that's depressing.
That's depressing.
I get why she's depressed.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, thank you for joining us today on the podcast, Whitney. Go see Whitney on our Big Baby North American Comedy Tour. You can find a link in our episode description here. You can also find a link to vote for our Webby Award. We're up for a Webby Award. How about that?
That is so great. The Joy episode, not the me episode.
So you've heard this already. Yeah, Joy's talking about it.
So great.
And this is next year, so it's good.
I'm so glad you're doing this.
Thank you. And thanks for listening, everybody. We're going to be on vacation next week. But on April 13th, Alyssa Farah-Griffin returns from maternity leave. How about that?
Behind the Table is executive produced by Brian Teta. Supervising producers are Nathan Getty and Summer Shea. Associate producers are Emily Darcy and Katerina Alexopoulos. And our editor is Brian Davis. And director of publicity is Laurie Hogan. From ABC Audio, Trevor Hastings serves as senior producer, with director of podcast programming Josh Cohen.